are still lingering, hindering all progress. You see, I was born with arthritis in my fingers. The result of all the walls my people have built to keep others down.
I guess I would have like a JA show. So it could be, oh, I reserved the auditorium today to audition MCs for this year's Journey into Asia. This totally awesome show that all of you should come out to.
Well, I like apple pies. I've been to a hoedown once. The color of my skin's white.
It's so hard to think of what like a typical white person would be, because I feel like there's so many different, but where I'm from, the typical white person was more of like the hillbilly, listening to country music.
White is the assumption, white is the baseline. So this is the generalizations that our society kind of feeds and grows from, and is just systematic of the white privilege and white power that exists. There's some notions of skepticism of white people within the community.
Why did she join that, knowing what she was getting into?
What's he doing there?
What is she doing here?
What makes him think he knows what he's talking about? Why does he get to do this?
Wow, what is she doing?
What is it about like Asian culture that you're so attached to and you always want to do?
Well, you don't move like a typical white girl. Oh, quit acting so white.
Being white, I don't really feel like I'm like have a culture per se. Like there's just nothing that I really like sticks out in my mind as being white.
My initial impressions with hip hop were like kind of a reaching out for a new culture, a dissatisfaction with my own scattered, in my then opinion, bland Irish, German, English, Italian mixed up, no tangibly identifiable white culture.
I can't really come up with like, oh, what does it mean to be like white? And when you look at Asian culture, you can like point it out. Each culture is very different and there's like elements to it that you can easily recognize. So when I was first getting into it, even to this day, I enjoy learning about it.
I'm just as interested in performing my own poetry as I am in listening to others. I traveled to Egypt and Tunisia to document the ongoing revolutions through spoken word poetry in a project called Poetic Portraits of a Revolution. We saw ourselves as a channel for echoing and for magnifying those voices to an audience that may not hear them if we don't do so. And it's a very thin line when you're telling someone else's story, whether you're speaking for them or you're speaking in communion with them. I can't ignore the fact that my own biases, my own privilege, my own layers are the medium. And so if I remove myself from the story, it's disingenuous to think that I can perfectly relay this message, because I can't. I relay their message through myself as a filter.
A lot of times when I'm with my friends, I try to like connect my childhood and my culture with theirs, because a lot of times they'll be like, oh, you don't understand having Asian parents. But although my parents always like told me to like do what I want, they also always pushed me. I guess I kind of try to, I don't want to say adapt, but I try to like find similarities in my culture with their culture.
So I think if you're willing to put yourself out there, if you're willing to accept that sliver of vulnerability in the moment, that you would be profoundly amazed and enlightened by how much you can learn from others.
So it just like really scared me in the fact that I was like jumping into something I'd never done before.
Through fear, we learn amazing things. You know, fear is such a powerful emotion, and that it has this way of breaking down everything you know and then asking you to put it together real quick.
Sometimes I feel uncomfortable. No person has ever made me feel that way. If anything, people have made me feel more comfortable. They tell me it's not a big deal, and then sometimes I like internalize it and make it more of a deal than it really is.
It gets a little stressful because it's like I feel like all eyes are on me whenever I'm singing with harmonics, and especially whenever I have a solo. So I feel like I definitely have to up my game.
With the exec board, they can pick me out a lot easier. I was getting people asking me about ASA. So, and I guess it's easier just to pick me out because like you look at us lined up on stage during our first GBM and it's really easy to see me. Like your eyes, I guess, are drawn to me first.
Because you may be the only white person in a room full of African Americans, there is a tendency if and once you are accepted within that community, to be the star, because look, there's a white person here. And so there's this tendency to give too much credit for the white person in the black community. And I think that's very much symptomatic of the very white privilege and power structures that that person may be trying to deconstruct.
It kind of hit me hard at one point whenever we were actually trying out for solos for the Black National Anthem, and someone brought up the point, why won't Maya try out? And then someone decided to say, because it's the Black National Anthem. It's not the fact of whether you're black or white. It's the fact of whether you're a good singer if you should sing that solo. Because right now, I stand up for any cultures if anything were to happen.
Created, I stand here tonight and I tell you I am sorry for my ancestors' existence. I am sorry I was born with these hands.
It's not that we should want to be each other, it's that we should want to engage, to work with each other.
I can't believe people are saying that I'm the only reason why I'm hanging out with black people is because I think I'm black. It's like, well, I actually know that I'm white, like, clearly. But hearing those kind of comments, you know, it does like hurt, and it does like hit there, because it's like, I'm not trying to be someone I'm not. I'm actually trying to be the person that I actually am.
I can't even think of the word, but it's very demeaning, I feel, almost to try to speak to a minority and to tell them, like, let's just ignore race. You know, I don't see race, you shouldn't see race, because that minority has likely lived a life where their race has been a negative thing. Their race has held them back or has made them be treated differently in some way. I was born into a white society and a white culture that were dominant, so for me, race doesn't matter. Race is almost never gonna hold me back as an individual. And so I think it's very problematic for white people to come in preaching ideas of humanism and ideas of a simplified version of just we're all the same, you know, and like your racial identity doesn't matter. I don't see race. Race doesn't exist, you know, and that is something very easy for the privileged race to say. To ignore race is bad, just like to be racist in your own life is bad.